Hello and welcome to Boomer 11 Live. We are reviewing two matches and two teams are, and finally now we know a semi-final lineup. It is going to be from the second end. It's going to be Morocco versus France now. One is definitely an upset. One is a defending champion, very close to making sure that they defend their title in 60 years of teams that have not been able to do it. But I have with me Abel right here. The goat is out. At least one of the candidates of the greatest of all time is now out of the World Cup. He's left the World Cup in tears. But talk me through that match, Portugal versus, he did not even start now. Ronaldo must have felt, I think it is when, the world comes crashing down on you, right? Where he tried everything and just did not work and it just was not Portugal's day.
I mean, uh, two big results in the World Cup, to be honest. And
Yeah.
to be talking about the first one, um, this is what football is all about. You can't just say that okay, he's a goat and he deserves the World Cup. You have to earn it. And Portugal did not earn the World Cup or did not earn the place in the semi-final of a World Cup. Though they did have their opportunity, they just couldn't grab it. It's so important to convert your opportunity. I just keep saying this in almost every live, that
Yeah.
especially in big tournaments, in big knockout stages, you have to grab your opportunities. You have to be as clinical as possible in front of the goal, which I thought Portugal were in through the course of that game, and hence you saw the result. But if you're talking about the second game, England once again they did have their opportunity to finish it off and make it actually an equalizer, and it was 84th minute of the game. And Kane missing out on the penalty in that very important stage in the game really did turn the tide completely on the French, and France in the hunt to defend the crown, and it's you've not seen that very often. A team being in the hunt to defend the crown for the consecutive time in a row. And I think it's a brilliant moment for this team to come this long in the tournament. Nobody did really give them the chance, right? At the start of the World Cup, we ourselves did say that this team does not really have the wheels in them to go deeper in the tournament, because they are facing a lot of issues within the team. They are facing injuries, which really look like it would actually jitter the camp in a way that it will actually bring wheels off the machine of the French team, but it has not looked in that way through the course of the tournament. They've
I
really
think
gotten better with every game they played.
is that a case of where sometimes it does happen, right? That injuries happen to key players and that the whole works. It kind of throws a spanner in the works, but also it can have a unifying effect, right? Where you're like, okay, these are our lads. They're not with us right now in Qatar, so we have to win it for our lads. And is that some sort of a unifying effect? Because we did speak about this team and the fact that they had a lot of issues in terms of their dressing room and the unity. But now, ever since the Qatar World Cup has begun, everyone, even Mbappe, whom we question in terms of unity and team spirit and whatnot. But all of those rumors and all of those allegations have been really put behind, and now we're seeing a team which enjoys in each other's success.
Yeah, Jen, to be very honest, I will say so that once again, in terms of how this team has really come a long way. There are a lot of doubters, including big pundits, including us. We all did not really give this team a chance, primarily
Yeah.
because of the way in which they were leading up to this tournament. They were not the team at all. They really did not look like a team who could go out there and defend the crown. And they just look like another team who will possibly have even a group stage exit way
Hmm.
early in the tournament. And that had to do a lot with the way in which they were preparing for the tournament, a lot in the way in which they were playing, a lot in the way in which this coach was setting up this team for this tournament. It just does not look like a team who could go out there and give a fight in any point of stage in a game. And for them, I think that the tone was set after the Australian game, where they really started to believe that they can go out there and pin goals left, right, and center. They can actually challenge teams. And the Denmark game, actually, I thought was a huge bonus for them. Dude, Denmark did not really turn up in this tournament, but Denmark was really a bogey team for this French national team. If you look in the last 4 years, there were multiple occasions where you felt like Denmark had the better number of the French national team, and today was once. And for them in this tournament to get past Denmark, the hurdle of getting past Denmark did really give that team the confidence to go ahead in the tournament. And I think that Tunisian lose was just an aberration. And after that, I really think they've not really looked behind. And now this victory against England has really put them in a path to get into another final. But I know it's not going to be an easy challenge, because though Morocco looks bleak on the paper, but you saw what they can do. They can actually churn out a result in tournaments like this. You just need to churn out a result. It doesn't matter how good a football you play or how bad a football you play. If you can churn out a result, that will really help you to progress into the next round.
Yeah, I mean, fair, credit has to go to France, right? Because they did hold on. They took their chances, especially. But let's talk about the first goal. Chouameni, just 22 years old. He is one of the, one of the picks you would say that Real Madrid has seen to succeed that midfield trio that has done magical stuff for Real Madrid for a long time. Now here comes a lad for France playing his first ever World Cup, and he scored probably the most important goal. I know you would say that Olivier Giroud has scored the winning goal, but that one goal that really set the tone for France right there, right? And from then on, it was always England playing catch up. But talk me through this guy and his mentality and what makes him so special at this level now.
See, Jen, there are two things, right? When you talk about Orlan Chouameni, it's just that his involvement in the game is such that his attacking progression in the entirety of this tournament has been outstanding. There are very few players who've had an impact in terms of attacking progression, also in terms of defensive work rate. He's been able to do that. He's been able to keep up with both the facets with perfection, and that's why you have to give credit to someone like an Orlan Chouameni. The way in which he's kept composure through the course of this tournament, the way in which he's really helped this team to he really own a place as an engine room for this French national team. Remember, there's no N'Golo Kante, there's no Paul Pogba,
Yeah.
or there is no someone like Karim Benzema in this team. So you need players. You really need players who can actually step up and fill the shoes and actually play big roles for the team. And all in Chouameni, when he was given that opportunity to fill the role of someone like an N'Golo Kante, he did that with perfection. I'm not comparing him with an N'Golo Kante, but the fact is that he's doing a job which is needed for his French national team in this tournament. And that's exactly what he's been doing time in and time out. And that's really helped this French national team. You needed a midfielder who can really take the game on, be that who can be a creator at the same time, who can also hold the play, who can do the dirty work in the back. And that's something which Olen Truman has been doing, who's been putting in a work day in and day out for this French national team through from the first game, from the game against Australia to the game against England today. He's done that every game. There's been no game where you felt like he's jittery or he does not belong in a big stage like this. It's his first World Cup, and the way he's turned up to his first World Cup, it's just remarkable. And it also has to do a lot with the way in which he's played the season with Real Madrid as well. He's really matured as a player in the last 1 year, and that's been seen in the way he's been playing in this World Cup as well.
I mean, credit again to Chouameni because he's been just incredible. But there was one man who was behind both the goals able. It was Antoine Griezmann. He's playing a role, that someone you don't. It's not something that Griezmann expects. He's always been a player who plays off the striker, but this time around, he's been that playmaker for them in the middle. Between Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, and Olivier Giroud. But he did an excellent job today, isn't it? Especially that goal that he helped create for Chouameni, and then again in the goal that Olivier Giroud scored, which we will speak about. But when even in that, he was the one who took that corner. It was a beautiful corner, even though it did not meet the head. And then again, he was there at the edges, right, where before the ball came in again for Giroud to get that goal in, that header in. So Antoine Griezmann, even though he's not scoring goals, he's getting those key assists in, right? And as I talk to you about this, there's also a graphic that we have, and as it pretty much shows the kind of delivery that he's been doing. It's almost as if he's becoming one of those really good playmakers. He's turning the clock back, and he's looking a lot more confident now in this French team because this French team is giving a lot of time as well. He's been told by Didier Deschamps that this is your role and you're one of our key players, and he's just opening up a lot of defenses now.
Yes, he certainly is, and that's something which we discussed prior to the World Cup as well. How he's going to play a
Yeah.
number 10 role for this team, in absence of someone like a Paul Pogba. He'll have to be more advanced in midfield. He'll have to bring his creative game into the fore, and he's been doing that with perfection. Look at every game which France has won. In every game, there's been an Antoine Griezmann moment which has really helped the French team to cross the
Yeah.
line. And if you look at the attacking sequence involvement, just his pass percentage in this entire tournament, he's had 3 assists in this tournament, 17 chances he's created. His reception from the deep, he's receiving the ball very deep in the midfield, and he's been able to progress the ball into the final third where Mbappe, Giroud, and also like some Usman Dembele has been able to receive it and actually cut into the box. That's a fantastic job which Griezmann has been able to do. But also look at his attacking sequence involvement in this game, right? In this tournament, rather. It's outstanding to say the least. He's one of the top midfielders out there in this tournament. Just in terms of the way in which he's been able to be involved in every game he's been playing. If you look, Henderson in this game has had a decent attacking sequence involvement, but also Griezmann out there has had a very good attacking sequence involvement in terms of the way he's played. Uh, Also talking about that, I think Griezmann is a kind of player who you should give the freedom. If you're gonna make him, if you're gonna put him in a rigid system where he has to play in a certain way, he tends to falter, or else you have to play him as a number nine, where he's pretty much good in doing that. So with Barcelona, you saw that he was not given that freedom. He was told to play on the left hand side. At times, he was told on he was told to play on the right hand side. He did not really get that freedom to be a free roaming. You know, when Griezmann is at its best, when he's given the free roaming role, because he's always gotten that talent to create for your team, and he's also got the goal scoring ability. But for this French national team, uh, he's put up in a role where he has to create a lot more than to score, to get inside the box, get inside the final third, because he understands that players like Giroud, players like Mbappe are going to be well placed inside the box, where he has to give that final pass on. Because Chouameni has been doing that job as well, to give the ball to Griezmann, and the reception of the ball reception of Griezmann has been way deep in the midfield, and for him to actually release players like Dembele and also someone like Mbappe to move in or cut inside the box has really helped this French national team. Talking about that, I have to also mention someone like Olivier Giroud. Olivier Giroud in this tournament, we already mentioned about him in the last game, but in this tournament in particular, I feel that Olivier Giroud has really owned this occasion. The two matches
Yeah.
he's, in whichever matches he's gotten that opportunity, he's looked like he's really meant business, and he's a player for the big occasion. In the last World Cup, he not scored a single goal, but his involvement in terms of him holding up the play was so vital for the French national team in multiple occasions, especially in terms of them trying to kill off a game or in terms of counterattacks. But in this World Cup, he's found his scoring boots, replacing Benzema. I think Benzema is also fit to start if France plays a final. Benzema can be fit to start for the French national team, which is a great news for them, which is definitely a value addition for
I mean,
sure.
is he there with
Uh,
them? I mean, is he there with them right now? Didn't he
he's
return
there with
back?
them. He's there with them. He's
So he's
there
there
with
with
them.
them. Oh, that is then there are chances then. I mean, that's going to be an incredible news for France if he does start. But let's switch over, Abel. Let's talk about Harry Kane. He's been a captain, leadership role in for this English team. He hasn't really scored goals, but you would say he's had his own impact. But today he had a penalty which he took. He's known, to really practice penalties even during league matches. But that moment right there, when the 85th minute came, 81st minute rather, and it was a very silly foul by Theo Hernandez on Mason Mount. It was a kind of foul, that could have costed France a lot more because that ball was safely going into the midst of Hugo Lloris. There was no need for that kind of a foul, and it was a gift really by the French team, almost as And from there, Harry Kane just skying it. That was a shocker for a lot of English fans, right? Because that was the match right there. Because things could have been really, really different if he had got it on, even on target, I felt. Because the amount of power, I don't think Hugo Lloris had any chance to save it.
See, there are two ways in which you can actually blame Harry Kane, but at the same time, you can't blame Harry Kane because before that, he did convert a penalty as well. So his success rate was not so bad as you think it is, right? But at that point of stage, I really think Harry Kane shouldn't have gone for power. He should have gone for placement. Uh, Maybe he should have taken a leaf out of Messi's book from yesterday of just going for placement. And in this kind of situations, when you're actually one goal down with 5 minutes to play or 6 minutes to play, you tend to overdo things, which Harry Kane did today. It's the second World Cup in a row where he's missed a clear opportunity. In the last World Cup against Croatia, he missed out a one-on-one chance against Subasic. Here, once again, in front of Yoris, he just bottled it, absolutely bottled it. And I just don't want to take up the comment of Matthews Willis, but then he did bottle it in a way which England wouldn't have wanted him to. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I just felt the pressure really got to him. You could see that in his face. You just could see that with the expectation, with the
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah. You
fans
can see the
behind him.
labored breathing as well. It just felt like he was rushing through it, and in the end, there was too much power and not really a placement. It did not seem like it was a calm penalty.
It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. At no point of stage where you were did you really feel that, oh, Harry Kane is absolutely comfortable on the ball to take this penalty and actually convert it. You knew that from the moment that England from the moment England got the penalty, England were looking under pressure to convert it, because in stages like this, penalties are one of the hardest to score because the
Yeah.
pressure is on the person who's going to take the kick. Firstly, you're trailing by one goal, and at the same time, you want to convert it. You don't want to overdo things. A lot of things which will go inside your mind at this stage, right? Whether you should go for placement, whether you should try to do something cheeky, or whether you should just go for power. Which Harry Kane did go for power, and he absolutely did not have any placement as well, which really meant that England had no chance. That was the best possible chance for them to come back into the game and to really actually take the game on from there on. But after that, they were not really big chances which came England's way. But I also will give credit to someone like for Harry Kane for really having a good tournament. At the same time, because you can sit there and blame Harry Kane how much of it you want. I think today social media are going to go really berserk on Harry Kane, but the tournament he's had as a captain, as a player, in terms of involvement, has been really good. Also, in terms of the way in which he's led the bunch of these youngsters into the quarterfinal, they lost to a very good French national team. The French national team have been outstanding through the course of this tournament. They really found the mojo, to say the least, like they did in 2018. They are looking like they really want to go out there and defend the crown. They're really playing as the world champions here. And it's not even a joke. They are playing as a world champions because they own the title and they are here to defend the crown. And they really mean it over here. And they just lost to them on a day like this.
Yeah, let's take Matthias's comment. He says that Southgate bottled. Um, what do you reckon of the Southgate's tactics, Abel? I mean, we have been pretty not just us. A lot of section of English fans have been critical about his tactics. There have been people who have been saying, that Southgate or maybe the manager can do a lot better with this English team. Is that something that came to light today? Because they did have an excellent second half. Did England? First half, yes, it belonged to France, but second half, you have to say that some of his tactics were spot on. But here's one thing that really irked me, Abel, and I'll go back to it before you give your opinion on it. But for me, Rashford, he did not get many touches in today's game, and that's the reason. The reason for that was because he came in 85th minute as a replacement for. I think it was a replacement for. Wait, who was it? Yeah, he
It
was
was
a
for
replacement
Foden.
for
For
Phil
Foden.
at the 85th minute, right? For me, I really felt he could have, instead of bringing Raheem Sterling in, who's not looked to the part really, and you've had um, Rashford be a super sub for you a long time now. He's done well every single time he's come off the bench. I think you could have really brought in Bukayo Saka instead of Bukayo Saka. When you substituted him, you should have brought in a Rashford and played Phil Foden in this on the side along with where Bukayo Saka was playing and given Rashford a central role. I think that would have worked really.
Um, yeah, you could have given that, but Bukayo Saka was playing as a number 10 through the course of this match. If you just look at an overall perspective, because Bukayo Saka was given the free roaming role where he was cutting in centrally in multiple occasions, and he was doing a very good job. Let's be very honest about it. Bukayo Saka possibly had one of the best games for England. But when I have to talk about Gareth Southgate, the manager, um, I thought there were a lot of occasions where I felt like he really did not really have a tactically good game, and that's something which we have been talking about Gareth Southgate since 2018 World Cup semi-final. That in big occasions like this, he really does not have the killer instinct in him to really take the game on by its head, or to make changes which are brave in nature, or make changes which are very much more
Yeah.
bolder, which can really make an impact in the overall result of the game. And
I
today,
mean,
once again, you
like
saw
something we
that.
saw yesterday, right? With Louis Van Gaal, for instance, which we really appreciated. The fact that he brought on a yellow carded Berghurst and then decided to play long balls. Yeah, I mean, I know Messi didn't like the tactic, but it did work, right? And that's a brave call. It was ugly football, yes, but it was football that worked. You didn't see that with Southgate today, isn't it? Because I seriously felt Marcus Rashford, he came very close, by the way, in the last kick of the game, very close to scoring that free kick. Could have been a repeat of what he did in the group stage. But I really felt he was someone who's done extremely well off the bench. And at that point in time, to bring him or not bring him, rather bring Raheem Sterling, who's not looked the part. I mean, you put him in the starting 11. He didn't do that well, and then you bring him again in those few minutes that you had. I think Marcus Rashford would have been a much more influential player there.
Yeah, you can say so. Ultimately, in hindsight, you can say you should have done this and that. But
Yeah, you do say
You're right in
hindsight
mentioning.
2020
You're right in
hindsight.
mentioning that as well. Because ultimately, what really matters is is making those changes when it matters the most, especially when you're trailing. And to bring players like Jack Welch when they were like what 2 minutes to go, to bring
Yeah,
Rashford when they were like what 5 minutes to go in full time. These are changes which you don't really expect, and these are changes which you should be bringing way earlier in the game.
these are, I
And
mean, those
these
are the kind of changes able you do to young players when you're 4-0 up in a game in a group stage game. Not when you're 1-0 down. These kind of players can actually bring in chances, but you have put them on the bench for so long that they've bare minimum seconds to really change the game. A Jack Grealish, his only run of the play was to charge at Hugo Lloris before he could pick up the ball, and the final whistle would blow.
I mean, yes, you can say so. Ultimately, in terms of what in terms of what Jack Grealish could have possibly done, or what Marcus Rashford would have done if it was brought early on. But the fact is also that you have to also try in terms of making some changes, and making those changes in terms of making those changes in the right moments in the game is very important. Entry point of every player in a game like this is very crucial. You let Giroud scored, and maybe there you demanded changes. That there was an occasion which actually demanded someone like a Marcus Rashford to come in and actually to change the tempo of the game in a big manner, which did not really take place in that point of stage. Then you waited a long way to bring in someone like a Jack Grealish, because Jack Grealish also can bring you that he can win you fouls at the same time in terms of he can actually progress the ball into the final third quite smoothly, and which we have seen with him in the City team as well this season. I know why he was kept so late, why he was not brought on earlier on. And these are complaints which we've been having about Gareth Southgate for a way longer period of time. It's not the first time that Gareth Southgate has done these mistakes, and is continuous occurrence of these mistakes is really putting him under scanner in terms of his job position in the English national team. And I think it's about the end of the road for Gareth Southgate with the English national team as well. He's had a very good
Yeah.
run, but he's not had a silverware to back it up. But he's had a very good run to finish fourth in the 2018 World Cup, to finish second in the Euros, to be third place in Nations League, and to get out in the quarters. I think it's not been the best of rounds in terms of the talent pool he's had, and I think we already had someone mention that out. I think Michael has rightly mentioned that out in terms of the kind of
Yeah.
talent pool you've got. You have to convert it. You have to be extremely smart. You have to be tactically very good as well in terms of how you are going to use these players who are extremely talented, who can win you a game of their own. Every player is a match winner for their respective club team in England, and to have these players to perform well on their day and to actually use them in the right manner, that's the way you're going to have success. And for Gareth Southgate, he did not really know how to really use these players, because if you look these players, if you give them that free roaming role, if you give them that freedom to express themselves on the field, I don't think a lot of teams in the world can stop this English national team, because that's the plethora, that's the depth of talent this English team possesses. And that's the kind of talent, or that's the kind of depth in squad also they've got. Every player has got a like to like replacement who can actually come in and change the course of the game. I think there are some positives about Gareth Southgate as well in terms of him backing someone like a Harry Maguire. It's something which you have to give Gareth Southgate the credit for. Harry Maguire has been the best player for England in the backline. When you talk
Absolutely.
about top
We
three
have to
players
talk
for
about
England
it.
in the tournament, he's been right up there,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's where you give credit to someone like Gareth Southgate. In terms of him backing someone like a Bukayo Saka, it's been outstanding. In terms of him playing Bellingham and going ahead, not playing someone like a Callum Phillips, understandably so, is a very, very smart move, and you should be doing that as well. But has he really used his talent pool into the maximum potential? No, he hasn't. He's not really deployed a system, or he's not really had a system where he's been able to deploy this team. I think it's so important to have a philosophy or a system which Gareth Southgate hasn't been able to embed into this English team. Hence, I believe that it's time for Gareth Southgate to move on, bring a manager who can really have a system which he can put in place, which can really help this English team. Now, in 2 years' time, you have Euros. I think that's going to be very crucial for this English national team, and that Euros is really going to test some of these English players, and these players are really going to be in the right age frame in terms of them trying to perform in that Euros. So I think to bring in a manager, give that manager 2 years span of time to really train these bunch of lads, give them the time to actually embed a system in place, is going to be so important, so vital as they move ahead in future as well.
I mean, so Himal, I mean, one final question before we do move on, because I don't think there's many questions related to this French team, isn't it? They have looked really good, but when talking about this England team now, England has always had that, right? We've spoken, we know about the golden generation where we had the Beckhams, the Gerrards, the Rooneys, and it is always this one thing that we said. It was always, that this team's got the talent, it's about the age, it's about the experience, and then these players really, lose that kind of what do you say? They end up losing a lot of these tournaments, and before you realize, they're way too old to win anymore. And then now the same is almost happening with this generation. You reckon that whole narrative is coming back where you're like, okay, this generation has got the talent, this team has got the talent, but what will it really take to go ahead? Is it the manager now you have to blame? If are we going to now have to look at the managerial side of things, or is it really something fundamentally wrong with the England setup?
I think it's the manager, and it's just the system which you have to put in place. None of these managers really had a philosophy which had to be put in place. It's so important to manage these players at the same time have a philosophy. That's really going to get you results. I thought Gareth Southgate was an excellent man manager in terms of the way he's defended the players, in terms of the way he's given confidence to every player in the group, in terms of the way he's really taken off the ego factor from the English national team, which was so important. If you look at the golden generation of the past, they really had a factor called the ego, which was playing in between them and winning matches for the English national team. Now, which of that is taken off the window since Gareth Southgate has taken over as a manager? But has he really embedded a system which can really help this English team to win trophies? Not really, and that's one of the reasons why this English national team has really struggled to get that final result of crossing the line, and which I think is so important with a team like England. I think once they cross the line, it'll help them to cross the line more and more and more. And it's about that one fine step which they should be able to take. And I hope they'll take it very soon. The moment they take that one final step, which is them crossing the line, it could be the Euros, it could be the next World Cup, or whenever it is, that's going to give the generation of players that confidence that they can cross the line more often than not, because they've got the talent pool in them. They've got the players who play as a unit and not actually crib about each other in the dressing room, leak these social media things, leak things to media, which was a major factor in the previous generations, which is not a case in this generation. That's got to do primarily with Gareth Southgate, and the environment is built around the team. But then the only place where he's lacked is tactical nuances and tactical astuteness in terms of him trying to deploy a system, which I think should be removed now, and which I think should be better in terms of a new manager coming into the system. And a new manager, whoever takes over, should absolutely continue the dressing room culture, which has been said by Gareth Southgate. And that's such an important value in any team sport or any sporting environment. The dressing room culture and the environment needs to be continued over a period of time, which I think is very good in the English national team, because these lads back each other, these lads play for each other, which I think has been the biggest paradigm shift in this English national team over the last decade or so. And I hope they continue to do this, at the same time embed a philosophy which will help them to really get better as a team.
Well, I suppose that is pretty much it for us now on this on the second match that happened today. But let's go back to the first match, Morocco versus Portugal, where Morocco has become the first ever African nation to reach the semis of a World Cup. It's not going to be easy to face France for sure, but they've done it. They have really done it, and in process, what has happened? I mean, as Natasha puts it in her comments as well, is they have left CR7 crying, and those images which are coming out of the dugout, or I mean the tunnel, they're really heart wrenching, isn't it? I mean, it's not easy. He's been one of the best that's ever touched football at this international level. He's won so many trophies, and I think ever since he's won that red and green, right, of the Portugal has always been a contender when Ronaldo has played amongst them. Today he did not start. It's just a sign of things to show as how the era of Ronaldo is really ending. Was today the last match ever now that he plays? I'm sure last match ever in the World Cup, but is it ever the last? Is it the last match that he plays in a major trophy for Portugal? Or will he
Well,
really see it in Euros? You reckon he
well,
has a chance in Euros? Because he does seem to be on the bench now. He does seem to be being phased out, right? In many ways.
yeah, I mean, this World Cup really did say how did really show in which how the transition has taken place. Not the right time for him to actually say goodbye, but then I think it's about time for him to say goodbye. but I'm nobody to say that. It's only Cristiano who can make the decision. He understands his body, he understands his role in the
Yeah.
team better than anybody. I think it's time that he has a word with Fernando Santos as well. I think it's also time for Fernando Santos tenure with the Portuguese national team. He's brought in success. He's brought success to his Portuguese national team in terms of the Euros in 2016. Brought them very close in terms of the way in which they really started as a contender in this World Cup. But once again, it's been a disappointment, man. I've
It
told
has.
I did mention this when we did the preview for the Portuguese national team before the World Cup. Anything short of a semi-finals for this Portuguese national team with the talent they've got is a failure, and is a failure in itself. And for them to be crashing out against Morocco, they played 19 minutes of football, in which the last 5 minutes were with just against 10 men. And for them to not convert their chances, for them to really go out in the way they did, I think it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough for them. And I think it has to do a lot with Fernando Santos as well. In terms, I really thought he should have actually brought in someone like a Rafael Leao way earlier in the game. Otavio, I really backed the decision to having Otavio, but at the same time, I don't really see that, man. I really don't see the factor of Otavio and also not playing Bruno in an advanced role. I think that was a very
Mhm.
bad decision. When you have Bruno Fernandes in your team, the best way to play him is in the advanced role, which was not happening. His ball receptions were way deep in the midfield, and you're playing him in a very big when you are playing him in a deeper role, which is not the ideal case for this Portuguese national team. And also another place where I give credit to the Portuguese national team is also not actually going ahead with someone like a Diogo Dalot. Diogo Dalot has been outstanding with Manchester United, and the way in which he's been able to defend and also make those ones in the final third by putting in the balls into the final third, having this creativity factor in him, and actually using the creativity factor in him into the best of effect. They've really done a good job there. But not using Cancelo when you do not have someone like a Nuno Mendes is not a good idea. Guerrero and Cancelo, I don't think you get anything out of them. Guerrero's defensive acumen is not that good, of course. But with Cancelo, his creativity factor really does enhance. And to bring him in the dying moments of the game, you're not going to get absolutely anything out of him. So that I
Yeah.
thought was a huge let off by Fernando Santos. Tactically, he went wrong there. And
Do you
Ruben
reckon
Neves,
it was a wrong decision to not start Cancelo at all?
yeah, it was not the right decision not to not start Cancelo. But then I also think it's not a bad idea to not play Cancelo in the right hand region, and it's not a bad idea to start someone like a Diogo Dalot because he's been your best right back in terms of at least providing you with a defensive work in terms of his defensive qualities, which has been in very good form at this point of stage. With Cancelo in City's system, he gets to be covered a lot because under Pep, his defensive weaknesses does really get covered a lot. But when it comes to his Portuguese national team, you did see that against Ghana. You did see that in against Korea as well, in multiple occasions. How in left-hand regions when there has been a high ball play, when the long ball has been played, them someone like a Cancelo not able to win the second balls or unable to win the duels aerially has been a concern for the Portuguese national team, and that was an area which other teams were looking to exploit them. Hence, he was ousted out of the team, ousted out of the starting 11 for every game. And to not have him in the left hand region when you had someone like Nuno Mendes to go out of the World Cup was not a good idea at all. I think he should have started on the left hand region. That would have really given them that extra bit of creativity on the left hand region, which should have helped someone like a Bruno, which should have helped someone like a Bernardo as well, which did not happen in this World Cup. And that's one thing which I really regret. Talking about them, how Felix had a very decent World Cup. Talking about Ruben Neves, not really up to the mark. Not really up to the mark. I really thought he should have had a World Cup where he should have really helped this Portuguese team to go forward. I still think they missed someone like a Renato Santos and his bombardness inside the final third, his ball progression. Otavio had a very okayish kind of a World Cup, but I still think someone like Renato Sanchez would have really given this team that advanced option to get into the final third, bring in creativity with pace, to actually link up with someone like Ahao Felix to make those in behind runs, which I think should have been so quite crucial against a team who would have maintained a low block. A lot of issues for this Portuguese team in terms of the way in which they were playing. Today, I thought Morocco really did show the fight. The grit of the Moroccan team has been unmatched in this World Cup.
Yeah.
If you look player wise, and if you have to put Morocco and Portuguese team on the paper, if you have to put any supercomputer kind of settings, supercomputer is going to give that result thousand out of thousand times for Portugal, and that's something which you can expect because of the sheer player quality and the skill which Portugal possesses. But for Morocco, for them to get their first goal from El Nesri, that was a brilliant header in, and from there on, they just showed that they can absolutely close this game out. They put their heart and their bodies out there to defend, and they defended in a way like true warriors out there. And I
They
think
did.
that's one of the reasons I keep saying in tournament football, it doesn't matter how good a football you play. If you can churn out results in a way which can really which can absolutely top you, which can absolutely give you that extra bit of confidence and the edge to topple the opposition, then there's nothing like it. And that's one thing which Moroccan team has been doing. They've only conceded once in this entire World Cup, and that also came through a own goal. In the last 8 games, they've not lost a single game. That's an outstanding feat to have. Now it's the ninth game in which they've not lost and they just considered one goal. Defensively, I think they're the most compactful. They're the most. They're the most aggressive team in terms of defensive. They've been so assured in terms of the way in which they have defended, and also have to give credit to the keeper Bono. What a tournament he's been
Yeah.
having alongside Livakovic,
So,
alongside Eddie
I mean,
Martinez. Bono
he
is
is
right out
now
there.
really, Yasin Bonu is now I mean, he is the goalkeeper who's kept the most clean sheets for Morocco at any World Cup. And this today was his 50th appearance, by the way. So this guy has been doing it, time and time again for Morocco. He's been that strength. And I think him and Livakovic have been two really good goalkeepers this time around. In terms of the finds of goalkeepers of this season, I think two of them will be really competing. And whoever survives the semi-final, if both of them do, or if they don't, then if they both do meet up in the final, in the the third place match, it will really depend on that to see who is the best goalkeeper of the season. I mean, Emiliano Martinez is doing a great job, but then you expect it from Emiliano Martinez, you expect it from the goalkeeper of Argentina. You don't usually expect it from a goalkeeper of Croatia or, I mean, Morocco, especially, to do it at that level, to deny even, I think it was I mean, I can't exactly say which minute it was, but the dying stage of the game, there was a very good chance that Ronaldo had, that Ronaldo almost put away, but then you had Bono, save and then make sure that the rebound doesn't go back to Ronaldo. It's just excellent goalkeeping, and it was goalkeeping of a high skill level that that I think he was really the reason. He was, I feel, was the reason why Morocco really was able to keep that 1-0 down, because there were times that Portugal got through the defense of Morocco, but then it had to be Bono. He was the last line of defense, and he made sure that that line was never broken.
Yeah, I'll take Priyanka's question. Meanwhile, Priyanka, I think, I mean, I can understand that's just football. I think you just have to maybe wash your face or just put a tap on your face and just say it's
Yeah.
football. Let's just move on, because in a
I
sport
think
like football and in a
you have
tournament
to
like
take it
World
on
Cup,
the chin, and you have to take it on the chin. These kind of football is a very cruel game. You can do everything right, but not score, and that might be the end of the World Cup for you, right? Just look at today, Harry Kane. I'm sure Harry Kane's done so many things right leading up to this World Cup. Inches is what really ended his World Cup dream for today, and it just happens. It really happens. Football is that
I
kind
mean,
of a
it just
topic.
keeps
So,
happening. I mean, you have to take it on the chin and you have to move on.
yeah,
And at the same time, you have to understand that in a tournament like World Cup, not everyone can be happy at the end of the day. You can only have
yeah.
one winner, only one nation, and one sector of fans are going to remain happy at the end of the 28 days of the World Cup, at the end of 70 games of the World Cup. And that's what it is. That's what World Cup has been all about. That's what World Cup is known for. Heartbreak is a factor which comes along with a World Cup. Heartbreak is a factor which comes as a part and parcel of a World Cup like tournament. And when your
Yeah.
team really does not do well, or when your team gets knocked out in a crucial stage in a World Cup, you will get hurt and it'll sting for a while. But then at the end of the day, it's just a game of football, and that's what a game of football brings. And a game of football is an emotional mangle. It takes you on a ride where on a day where your team does well, you're going to be absolutely on a high, and on a day where your team does not do well or get knocked out, you're going to be absolutely shattered. So I think it's so important for every one of us to actually bring a balance, which I personally have really struggled to bring as well, because it's
Yeah.
really tough. Because when your team
It is
loses, it's really tough.
taxing. It is very taxing. I think it's not just days, Abel, isn't it? It's also minutes, right? I mean, in a minute, you are very happy about the fact that your team is scored, you have equalized, or your team is in lead. And then in the next 10 minutes, the game changes, and then you're worried about the fact that your team might be knocked out. Look at the Brazil game, for instance. The Brazil game, you thought that Brazil had done it's the 105th minute, 4th minute. There isn't a goal coming back now, and there comes, the Croatian team. It hits you on the counter, and then it's 1-1, and the things emotions change so quickly in football. That's why it's so difficult as a fan, especially. I feel many a times, the job of fan is difficult because if you're a player, you still believe, you can change the game on the pitch. It's always things are in your control. But as a fan, you have to look at some of the players that you're supporting, and you have to hope that they do it for you, because it's not easy. And I mean, it's a very tough job being a fan as well. And sometimes it does go underappreciated, because at the end of the day, the pressure is on the player. But as a fan, it's not easy as well, because there's a sense of helplessness if your team doesn't do well at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you on that, Jen. And it's a thing which I mentioned, as I mentioned, it just comes alongside a tournament like World Cup. It's a factor which comes alongside any football team which you follow as well. It's not success; it's the failure which you should be able to accept it. And I agree, a lot of fans will go through this, and tonight is not going to be easy, or last two nights would not have been easy for a lot of fans across the world, not just in India, or not just in Europe, or not just in Portugal or in Brazil. Across the world, a lot of fans would have been heartbroken because of the fact that their team have really come so close. Their team have given them the hope that they could go out all the way to really clinch the title, but they've fallen short in the final moments or in the dying stages of a game. And it's something which you should be able to take it, which you should be able to actually come in terms with. And I think with every game, or with every moment you actually watch World Cup, you'll be able to come in terms with that even more. And to be very honest, to be talking about Cristiano Ronaldo and his exit, I think it's about time we discuss about it. I think, he's had a fantastic or a phenomenal career as a player for a Portuguese national team. I still maintain that he's really made this Portuguese national team really believe in every tournament, since his debut, to really believe that they are a contender to go out there and win it. Remember, before 2006, they had only qualified for what, two World Cups, but since 2006, they've qualified for every World Cup. They've had a very
Yeah,
good run in almost every World Cup or in every major tournament, in terms of them being a contender or giving them the tag of a contender, especially this World Cup. They were one of the strong or the red hot favorites prior to this game,
yeah,
at least, to go out there to actually clinch the title. And everybody dreamt of the Argentina was a Portugal final as well, because of this very reason. But
yeah.
ultimately, sport is a very cruel thing. For Morocco to come, look at the beauty of it in the other flip side, right? Portugal had a heartbreak, but for an African nation, the first
So, I
ever time
mean,
for
it
Morocco
feels
to,
right
or
now. I was going through some of the videos. New York City, out of all places, has been crowded right now. I think it's early hours there, and crowded. I would say, with Moroccan fans on the street with flags waving. I was seeing the crowd itself that was supporting Morocco. Right, there were so many other nations out there. We spotted Algerian flag. We spotted the Palestinian flag. So there's a whole world out there which is so happy about the fact that Morocco is doing well, and it is incredible. I know, that's how the world works at the end of the day. One man's joy is another man's sorrow. It's always how it's been, and I think it is sad, the way his World Cup came to an end.
I
Some
just
of
love the
these,
fact how this Moroccan team has really helped, really gotten together as a unit. And I have to give special
yeah,
mention to someone like, I have to give special mention to someone like Amrabat today. Amrabat as a leader, the moment Roman Sais was taken off, for him to really step up as a captain, for him to really lead the line, he had an exceptional game in the defensive line today, Amrabat. And also Buffon, he had a fantastic game until he was taken off. Ziyech, I hope the injury is not too far serious. Hakimi, El Nesri, to bring that goal in at the right point of stage, right before the halftime, to really demoralize Portuguese confidence, was outstanding. It's just not a couple of players for them stepping up. It's a complete team who was really given or put their bodies on the line to
yeah,
really get that victory or to churn out the victory. And that's a dangerous trait for any team to come up against. Even for the French national team, it's not going to be easy. Even though you're going to have a Mbappe, you're going to have Olivier Giroud, But the fact of the matter is that for this Moroccan team now, they believe they have nothing to lose. They believe the kind of achievement they've been able to achieve, right? The first ever African nation to qualify into the World Cup semi-final, and now they're on the verge to be the first ever nation to actually win the World Cup and to qualify for the final as well. So there are a lot of history beckoning for this Moroccan national team, and that's an incredible feat in itself to qualify into the top four, where nobody actually, with no supercomputers, no pundits, or no bloody person in this world would have ever predicted that Morocco will end up in the top four at the start of the World Cup. They were not even the best team in Africa. Let's be very honest about that. They were not even the top three in Africa. For them to qualify into the World Cup semi-final, the way they did, the way they've come out as a unit, oh man, it's been outstanding. It's been just beautiful to watch this nation and the drive they've had with every game they've played. They've just gotten better and better. From the first game they've had against Croatia to get the result against Belgium and to actually pull out a result against Spain, now to defeat Portugal. Come on, man. That's just some crazy results they've had. It's just not luck. It's just pure good footballing way in which they've won every game. And you people who have a take about the way in which they play football, it doesn't matter. As long as you get results, you've seen in past as well. You've seen that with the Portuguese team in 2016. They played some really negative football to really get the result. Greece of 2004, Denmark after 92 Euros. You have seen a lot of these results come their way. So it doesn't matter. Ultimately, you'll be remembered in history for actually claiming a trophy or actually having this kind of run.
Yeah, I mean, so that's pretty much it from us then. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I know it's been pretty, if you're in India, so it's pretty late and pretty early in the morning, however you look at it. But it's been that kind of a day for us. I mean, some really, some great stories coming out of the World Cup, obviously with Morocco, but also at the same time, some heart wrenching story with the fact that CR7 is also out of the World Cup.
Yeah,
And
before we end the live, I just want to
yeah,
talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. I think the legacy which is set in the world stage will be unparalleled to anybody.
yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of the GOAT debate. Firstly, it's just unfair on two players to really be compared as a GOAT. It's just all for media and the hype to do it. But the fact of the matter is that it was, as a football fan or as a player, as a fan who have followed the sport, for you to see Cristiano Ronaldo actually react the way he did, for him to actually go back crying, is just a moment of heartbreaking, or it's a moment where you've been broken as a fan. And I truly was broken when I saw Cristiano Ronaldo crying going into the tunnel like that. But whatever said, if he retires tonight or if he's going to retire in the coming days, it doesn't matter. He's going to be remembered as the GOAT for Portugal. He's going to be remembered as a GOAT in footballing history and in international football. Remember, he's the all-time leading goal scorer in international football history. He's really taken over this Portuguese team. He's really driven this Portuguese team in every tournament since his debut to believe that they can be a
And I think
contender.
it was
And,
like a
and they've
whole new
really been a
generation
contender.
of Portuguese players, right?
Yeah,
Now that
absolutely.
believe they can win trophies.
Yeah,
That was the clear statement.
if you talk about Portugal team before 2004, they've come close. They did come to the final of 2004 Euros. They did come to the semi-final of 2006. It's all been there, but they're not really. There were nobody in the world really treated them as a team who could really go out there and actually do stuff. But since 2010, 12, 14, 16, to go out there and win that first ever Euro trophy, it's been an exceptional journey for the Portuguese national team. And
Yeah,
for him to end the way it did, it is not the most fortunate way. He's reached a point of stage in his career, even in his club footballing career, and also here it's not going the best of time for him, right? He's had
true.
to face the wrong side of a lot of things, and for him to end the way it did, it's just unfortunate. As I keep saying, World Cup doesn't owe anybody anything. You have to earn it, and ultimately his team was unable to earn that spot in the semi-final. They
Yeah.
lost to the sheer passion and the grit of the Moroccan national team, and that's where I give my respect. I tip my hat off the Moroccan national team. At the same time, my heart goes out to Portugal because they really did not really deserve the way they ended this. Because the way they played against Switzerland, I really thought nobody in this entire World Cup could really stop them. But here is the game of football. It's just a funny sport. It keeps throwing at
Yeah.
you results like this, and will keep on throwing results like this as we go along in the final stages of this World Cup.
Absolutely, but I mean, it's such a disappointing end, really. And I mean, our heart does go out to Ronaldo because we can understand that it's the passion behind all the passion that drives him, to play football, and he wanted this trophy really badly. But maybe he himself, as he said, he did say very initially as well that this will be his last World Cup, and it might as well be. But you never know. With Ronaldo, it's always that hunger in him, and sometimes, and we've seen, right, whenever he fails, that hunger always reignites, and it reignites. But maybe this is the end. Maybe it's not. We really can't tell until and the only one who can say, as you said, Abel, it is Cristiano himself. We might come to know the outcome of what has happened today, maybe after a few days, once he's processed that emotions. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us once again. Make sure to download and play on Boom 11, either on Apple App Store or Google Play, because we have right now over 5,200 daily winners on our app. And if you are, I mean, you can also utilize the Sharaf DG predictor, where we have up to 4 electronics available for you to win. And if you are able to access the African plus Eastern predictor, then you can be one of the top 10 winners for every match that can win 5 iPhone 14 Pro Max. And the winners we will be declaring on 20th of this December, just 9 days to go. And if you're not able to end up in the top 10, then don't worry because you still have 45 G-Shock watches waiting for you. So thank you guys once again, and do not forget to check out these offers on Boom 11 app. Thank you, Abel, for joining us, and we'll be back soon with the semi-final action where Argentina and Croatia and Morocco and France have booked their places. So we will be back for those matches as well to see who is going to be in the finals for this year's World Cup. And the action never stops, and that trophy is not it is in everyone's reach at the same time is far away from all these teams. There's a lot to still happen in this World Cup. A lot of heartbreaks still to happen, and a lot of great stories coming up. But thank you guys for joining us once again.
Bye bye. Good night, guys, and absolutely enjoy this World Cup. It's coming to an end very soon. So enjoy it while it lasts. Then else you have to wait another 4 years for the vibe to come back again. It's been an outstanding World Cup to say the least,
Yeah,
and I hope it keeps the momentum it has actually picked up. Good night
yeah.
and have a good time, all of you.
All right. Good night, guys.